It's difficult to think that just one mechanic in a video game is enough to put you off it entirely. I can see why some players wouldn't want to play a turn-based RPG because they prefer to swing their sword about, and I can see the same for players like myself who try to avoid the parrying mechanic like it's the bubonic plague. It is mostly down to personal preference, but in the latter's case, it seems parrying has become a bit of a fad. Don't get me wrong, it's always been there. It was popularized by games like Sekiro and recently Clear Obscure, but nowadays it can be found in so many titles that I and others are starting to feel fatigue, especially when lots of them seem to miss the mark. Lunarium is another game that is bracing itself for the onslaught of Soulslikes, but does a solid enough job that fans of the genre will have a good time with it. It's not the type of game that will leave you feeling starstruck, but does its job well enough. Lunarium is an action RPG by Chinese developers Lunarium Studios, which kind of makes you think they're going full MCU cinematic universe with this IP if they've named the studio after it. You play as Ave, a knight from a small village who embarks on a world-saving journey with the mysterious seafarer Luna. The pair will team up against blighted enemies using Ave's precise dodges and parries alongside Luna's light-wielding powers that enhance her partner's attacks and weaken enemies. This is all the while learning of the slow ruin of the world by the Nihilus, exploring beautiful fantasy settings, and plucking resources from the landscape to improve your skills. From what I have just said, you can probably gather that Lunarium isn't a unique concept. It treads a lot of the same ground as other Souls-like games, and with so many on offer, it's hard to decide whether this one is worth picking up. But that's my job to do, and even though I am pretty balls at these types of games, Lunarium's tough combat is relieved by its beautiful aesthetics and makes for a good time. Just a quick note too, as you watch footage for this game, there are quite a few conversations or pieces of lore that haven't been translated yet. This is not a slight on the game, as the developers told us that this will all be patched in time for its full release. Lunarium has a heavy focus on parrying, and by heavy focus, I mean if you do not parry the attacks of the mini-bosses and big bosses you come across, it will take you eons to take them down. It's fine to center your game around a mechanic like this. If that's the style the developers want, then it's just down to personal preference whether you want to pick up the game or not. For those who do not like the annoyingly precise mechanic though, this game may not be for you, as it's not one you can ignore. Unlike other games like Elden Ring where you can forget a parry ever existed and substitute it for something more your style, Lunarium becomes hell incarnate if you do not quickly adapt. Ave strikes using a sword, with a light attack and a charged up heavy attack that can be comboed alongside Luna's light abilities, which mostly boost Ave's attacks while simultaneously exploiting an enemy. I face significantly more of a challenge when it comes to these types of games because I'm not very good at quick thinking, so I struggled to remember a quick button press that triggered Luna's attack that acted as a combo boost for Ave's. However, the game does a great job with their visual and audio cues, as they'd signal when Luna's light arrow was most effectively used, but this was difficult to keep in mind in the game's fast-paced boss fights. So far in my journey, I've also enjoyed the enemy variety, with standard projectile spewing plants, nimble wolves, and hard-hitting knights. This also translated to the boss fights, which all came with their own unique attack patterns and mechanics to understand and overcome. Whilst Ave's attacks can be used whenever, Luna's consumes resonance, which allows you to use her light powers, but also to do additional helpful actions like Ave's perfect dodge, which steers you clear of enemies and slows down their attacks. The other consumable points Ave has use of is a healing battle, but once you've used all of your healing points, they're gone until you rest at a nearby bench, whilst resonance is replenished every time you strike an enemy. Both of these consumables can be upgrading using resources found in the overworld. The game has a focus on boss battles, which come with unique attack patterns that you'll spend a long time learning. I always find these types of games rewarding in how slow yet rewarding their combat systems are, but what drags them down is the over-reliance on parrying, and in some cases the fact that parrying was too slow in helping take down enemies, dragging them out so they felt tedious. In Lunarium, every time you parry, a gauge will fill up, with larger chunks filling up with each successful parry and lesser chunks for just landing usual hits. However, you are punished for taking a step back in this combat combat system, as the gauge will rapidly decrease if you take long to land a hit. This means that Lunarium expects you to be up close and personal at all times, otherwise you're treated to a rather long fight. Once you have filled that gauge, however, Lune will be able to strike and break the enemy, leaving them stunned and giving you ability to deal significantly more damage. Lunarium also has systems that allow Eve's and Luna's powers to be upgraded and for new skills to be learnt. Like in most RPGs, you'll get a skill tree that you can get unique powers from, using a currency that is obtained through killing enemies. Some of these include small additions, like being able to deflect enemy projectiles back to them, or battle-changing ones, like a perfect dodge, which slows down enemies' attacks. Eve's build can also be altered using the cloak she wears. Her base cloak can be upgraded to increase her health, but you can swap this out for a range of others with unique abilities. Her cloak also has 4 embroidery slots that can be attached to it to give her extra powers. For example, one embroidery allows her to deal more damage, but in return take more damage, while a standard one allows you to get more resonance to use. I never found any of Lunarium's systems to be deep, and I'm pretty sure I've seen them done a million times before, just renamed. While some skills are unique, I found Lunarium to be lacking in character and uniqueness with its combat. If you played Soulslikes before, then you'll be right at home here. If that's a good thing, that's up to you. If Lunarium's combat is pretty basic, then unfortunately you won't be able to escape too far into a story that is just as generic. Lunarium's narrative is ground that has been walked upon so many times, I probably could have told you the story without looking it up. The land in which Eve lives in is being taken over by a cosmic blight that is smothering the landscape and infecting the animals and people in it. In a quest to find out what has caused it, Eve stumbles across a sanctuary that inhabits a starfarer, a race of people who are known to live in harmony with humans and act as their guides. However, it has been many moons since the last starfarer showed themselves until now, when Lune asks Eve to help her stop the Nihilus. I think what mostly helps Lunarium's story is its environmental storytelling, with the duo being able to pick up notes that reveal more about the magic of the world and the victims of the blight. But there is a lack of NPCs to engage with and a lack of side quests that left Lunarium feeling a tad bare. So far in my journey, I've enjoyed the interactions between the main characters. They complement each other nicely, but during my time with Lunarium, I never saw any grand character moments that made me feel in tune with who they were as people. Eve is your usual adorable hero, and Lune is quiet and reserved. It's a nice and simple dynamic, but left me wanting more. Whilst I know we will get more lore regarding Lune, it's weird to me that even though we venture to Eve's village in the early game, we don't really get a feel for who she is and what her upbringing is outside of being a bumpkin turned hero. Where Lunarium really shines for me though is in the atmosphere it creates through its music and visuals, which feel reminiscent of Final Fantasy and other JRPGs. I'm already a massive sucker for star-themed imagery and fantasy stories, which this game has in abundance. It gives it an ethereal feel which relieves me of its challenging and brutal combat. The music is dainty, and I appreciate when an area has one track but varies in tone in different scenarios. For example, I love how the city's track slows and quiets down when approaching a bench, but its orchestra ramps up in battle. It makes the world's environments feel in harmony with each other. I can definitely see myself enjoying the soundtrack outside of playing the game, which is not something that happens often for me. Soulslike feel responsive, it's integral to have good audio cues, so you know when to parry, dodge and strike. I had no problems with Lunarium in this regard. The same can be said for its accessibility options. There's not too much to play around with, just some toggles and button reassignments that can make life a little bit easier, like an auto run or the ability to change the sprint button to LT on a controller. Speaking of controllers, I found using a DualSense controller worked perfectly, despite Steam telling me it wasn't 100% supported. I absolutely adored the visuals of Lunarium. I'm a massive Nier fan, and the art style of this game feels reminiscent of the dystopian yet fantastical settings of the JRPG. The lack of line work and washed out colour palette in the character portraits makes them feel very fairy tale-esque, and I honestly think Lunarium Studios got the enemy designs down perfectly to match its environments. Speaking of environments, they are also just as beautiful, with landmarks that are memorable and a blend of ruin and nature that makes the world feel magical yet bleak. I loved how the washed out stone walls of the city were punctuated by a bleed of red in its flora, contrasted with the deep blues of Sandstone. Each area feels unique and a feast for the eyes. It's honestly perfect. Lunarium is a solid action RPG RPG that feels very familiar and adds itself to the long list of Souls-like games you can pick up if you're looking to scratch that itch. The combat is fine-tuned with good audio cues and precise combat, which helps you feel like you're getting better at it over time. This is helped by the game's natural difficulty curve that will constantly push you past your limits, with boss battles that are varied and challenging. As a reminder though, the game is quite punishing if you aren't very good at parrying, so if that's not your taste, then this may be a miss. You either get good at it or face rather long, tedious battles. There are also plenty of customization options with systems that you will understand with your eyes closed if you've played at least one Souls-like or RPG, which makes Lunarium feel like all the others you've played, rather than carving out a position for itself. What makes Lunarium stand out though is its visuals and music, which are truly a wondrous experience. Each area is fantastical and uniquely characterized, so despite a short runtime, each part of the game feels full of life and character. This is helped with sprinklings of lore and an evolving story that is rather generic but does its job well enough. Lunarium is another Souls-like, yes, but it's a pretty good one, and I would say it's worth your time if you're looking for a beautiful challenge. So I'm awarding it the Bronze Genie Lamp of Goodness.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to help us continue to be able to bring a voice to the voiceless. Join the over 60,000 indie warriors that have said goodbye to the gaming echo chamber. For even more support, head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you can get Discord access, early shows, exclusive content, and more, now with a brand new $2 entry tier. Or check out YouTube memberships for exclusive badges, custom emoji, and other fun perks. Support real people making real things, because here at I Dream of Indie Games, it's always about the games.